In a small village, at the edge of a vast forest, there was a legend that everyone knew. They said deep within the forest stood a tree that could talk. No one had ever found the tree, but the stories passed down from generation to generation kept the legend alive. Ella had always been fascinated by the tale of the talking tree. She spent many afternoons wandering the forest near her home, hoping to find it, but each time, she returned with nothing but a few pine cones and wildflowers. One sunny morning, Ella decided that today would be different. Armed with her backpack full of snacks, a water bottle, and her favorite book, she set off into the forest, determined to finally find the tree that everyone talked about. The forest was cool and quiet, the only sounds being the rustling leaves and the chirping of birds. Ella walked for what seemed like hours, her eyes scanning every tree, hoping one might be the one she was looking for. As the sun began to sink lower in the sky, Ella found herself in a part of the forest she had never been to before. The trees here were taller, their branches thicker, and the air seemed heavier, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Ella stopped to catch her breath and leaned against one of the trees, feeling the cool bark against her back. Just as she was about to take a sip of water, she heard it, a soft voice, faint but clear. "Hello," the voice said. Ella froze, her heart racing. She looked around, but there was no one there. "Up here," the voice said again, a little louder this time. Slowly, Ella tilted her head back, and her breath caught in her throat. There, standing tall and proud, was the biggest tree she had ever seen. Its trunk was wide and gnarled, with deep grooves running through the bark. Its branches stretched out high above her, their leaves whispering softly in the wind. Are you the talking tree?" Ella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The tree's leaves rustled as though it was laughing. "Yes, I am. And you, my dear, are very brave to come this far." Ella blinked in disbelief. She had found it, the talking tree. "I've heard stories about you," Ella said, stepping closer to the tree, her excitement bubbling up inside her. "But no one believed you were real." The tree's voice was soft and warm, like a summer breeze. "Most people never come far enough into the forest to find me. But you, Ella, have a heart full of curiosity. That is why you are here." Ella smiled. "Huh. How do you know my name?" The tree chuckled. "The forest knows many things, little one. It listens and watches, and it has seen you wandering these woods many times." Ella felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had always felt a connection to the forest, but she had never imagined it knew her too. "I've always wanted to meet you," Ella said, leaning against the tree's wide trunk. "What do you talk about? Do you have stories?" The tree's branches swayed gently. "I have many stories, but most of all, I listen. The forest is full of stories, stories of animals, of the wind, and of time itself. If you listen carefully, you can hear them too." Ella closed her eyes, letting the sounds of the forest wash over her. For the first time, she noticed the different voices, the rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the birds, the creaking of the branches. It was as if the entire forest was alive with secrets. "I hear them," Ella whispered, her eyes still closed. "It's like the forest is singing." The tree's voice was filled with warmth. "That's right. Every tree, every creature, has a story to tell. The forest is always speaking, but not everyone listens." For the next few hours, Ella sat beneath the talking tree, listening to its stories. It told her about the animals that lived in the woods, the storms that had shaped the land, and the people who had passed through the forest over the years. Each story was more magical than the last, and Ella felt like she had entered a world that few people ever got to see. As the sun began to set, casting golden light through the trees, Ella knew it was time to go. "Will I ever see you again?" she asked, standing up and brushing the dirt from her pants. The tree's branches swayed gently in the breeze. "You're always welcome here, Ella. The forest will be waiting for you." Ella smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. "Thank you for the stories." The tree's leaves rustled softly. "Thank you for listening." With one last look at the talking tree, Ella turned and made her way back through the forest. The path seemed shorter now, and the forest seemed brighter, as though it was lighting her way home. As she stepped out of the forest and into the fading light of the evening, Ella knew one thing for sure. She would never forget the day she met the talking tree.